What's up, guys? Mason the Brock Henderson here, and this is Criminal Minds, Season 14, Episode 4, Innocence. So first of all, I'll tackle the good in this episode, because basically the stuff with Garcia was really good. Drawing a bit on what just happened in the first episode of this season, and then a little bit of what happened last season, because even though I don't remember much of what happened the previous season, I do remember the episode where dealing with a guy, killed her parents in a drunk driving accident, and her brother or half brother or however they're related, because I don't remember now, him basically not understanding whenever she forgave him and helped him get out of prison. And yeah, the reason I remember that is because that episode definitely stood out, at least that part of the episode, as really good and really emotional, and the acting was phenomenal, really. So coming into this and seeing that's kind of what they referenced to at the beginning of this, like the previously on Criminal Minds, I kind of figured we would maybe get some closure, and I'm glad we did. I don't know if we're going to continue to get more story on it, or if this is kind of what we're getting for now, and maybe they'll come back to it later. But I would like to see a bit more, because what she's going through is a lot. And I'm glad they're kind of referencing that, because it seemed like after all that happened with her brother last season, and they ended on sort of bad terms, and he's not speaking to her, never really talked about it much after that. And then this season begins with her getting kidnapped, and Prentice in the next episode was just kind of in a little offhanded comment that was never brought up again. Was like, look, if you need to take some time. And then we didn't really talk about it anymore. So I'm glad that we're kind of addressing that now. We're like, no, okay, she's been through a lot, guys. So let's give her an episode to come to terms with some of it and have a chance to resolve the issue with her brother. Two things I will say about it. First of all, the acting, again, really good. And Kirsten Van Ness, or however you say her name, she typically does a fantastic job. There's so many moments throughout the series that I can just remember her acting in it and how good it is, and how she really brings the heart of the show, I feel like, in a way that the quirky computer assistant, I don't know, sometimes can get lost in the mist, in the mix of everything going on. Honestly, when I look at other, quirky computer assistants in other shows that I've seen, I feel like a lot of them do draw on the Penelope Garcia formula, and just how they try to make that character kind of the fun of the group, but also the one that keeps them keeps them together and keeps them functioning as a unit. And obviously it was a little cheesy, but Prentice's line does ring true here. Penelope, she does a good job of making sure everything's running smoothly, the team is functioning well. They turn to her most of the time when they need some help, because she has the ability to do so much behind the computer. So yeah, I really enjoyed that. The second thing I want to talk about, though, was a little weird in this, and that's just the brother reveal. Only because they just revealed him moments before. Because the way they shot it, they showed Prentice, giving her the mug. It's like, good, I hope you don't hate me after this, because Rossi and I talked to him and we asked him to come in, and then open the door to reveal him, which would have been a good reveal on its own. But literally 10 seconds, or probably more than that, but 10, 20 seconds before that, we see Rossi bringing him out of the elevator. So, I don't know, it was almost like that scene was built up to be a surprise, the way she opened the door and revealed him. It was supposed to be like, oh, they got him in. But it's not a surprise if you show us in the previous scene that he's walking into the BAU and they asked him to come in. So I don't know. It's almost like they shot this scene first, and then maybe they showed it to test audience or something along those lines, and they're just like, wait, but how do they get him in the door? And they're like, oh no, we forgot, people are stupid, so we got to show him arriving first and having this short little conversation with Rossi, and Rossi saying like, no, she wants you to be here, trust me. Like, I don't know, it was just weird. But it wasn't the worst thing in the episode. I will get to that in a second. But yeah, so everything with Garcia and her brother, I hope we get more of it. But if not, I liked what we got in this episode, because it was more good acting, and it was emotional at times, seeing Penelope sort of break down because of everything she's been through. On to the case itself, and this is where things took a little bit of a turn for the worse. And that's just because the story in this one, not all that interesting. The killer, not that interesting. The acting from the kids, not interesting, or bad, really. yeah, I don't know. The way they were building it up, they were almost building it up as kind of a whodunit between the husband of this girl that was killed and the pastor. And I'm just like, it's not going to be either of them because they're focusing so hard on this. It's not going to be either of them. The twist where the husband confessed, that did catch me off guard a little bit, but then it also made more obvious to me who the killer ended up being, which was the son. Because I'm like, well, he would only want to defend his son, and they did show a scene earlier where the aunt comes in and she's hugging both of the kids, and the son just has no expression on his face. So I'm like, okay, so that was weird. And the thing is, Matt's looking right at it, so I feel like he should look at the son's face and be like, there's no sadness in his face right now. That's weird. Like, when I first saw it, I thought it was weird. I'm like, is it going to be the kid's a psychopath or he doesn't feel emotion or something along those lines? They didn't go necessarily down that path, but yeah, he didn't really look sad, and it's because he's the one that did it, and it's because he hated his mom for hiding the fact that she had him with another man. I'm just, okay, so Matt, are you not doing your job? As a profiler, you look at the son's face, you go, he doesn't look sad to me. And yeah, you point that out to the team. You say, the son was acting a little weird, and somebody should be able to start piecing the dots together, especially whenever the father's covering for somebody. The first thought in my mind is he's covering for the son, so that means the son probably did it. And yeah, that was it. So, I don't know. That was just weird to me. But yeah, the son's acting, it wasn't good. It really wasn't. Just all that final scene where he gets to the DNA results and he's talking to his sister, and then the sister was just even worse. I mean, don't get me wrong, I get kid actors typically are not that great. You do get your few that are really good, but most of the time, yeah, their delivery is just a little stale. It's a little, and they're kids, so I'm not gonna judge them too harshly for it. But it is hard to watch whenever your whole final act is the team trying to talk, JJ trying to talk this kid down, and he's trying to act, he's trying to get all angry and be like, I can't believe she did this to me, and she made me a bastard, and all this stuff. And it's just not convincing. I'm not convinced by his performance, and so I'm not really getting into this moment that's supposed to be really tense. I'm just kind of sitting here going, can we just end this scene now, please? Yeah, and then there were also some weird edits as well. First of all, when they're in the house, the son and his sister, they're in the house, he grabs the shotgun, which the nanny is just there for like a couple seconds, and then he pulls out the shotgun, and she's like, oh, and then gets shot. And I don't know, the edit on the scene, like, he pulls the gun, you hear it sounds like a really distant gunshot, even though it's just outside the door for the sister. And then he goes to, like, kick the door in. And it just, I don't know, none of it looked real. Like, she locked the door. He should have to bust that door off its hinges or something. And he just gives it, like, a little, and the door just swings open kind of slowly. Like, okay, no, that door was not locked then. Or it's just very poorly made. And then he just his reaction as well, just, let's go. And then they come back from the commercial break, and she's running away from him in the forest. Just like, wait a minute, how did she get past? But then the next scene, she's tied to a tree. So he caught up to, what is going on? I think it was supposed to be like he was leading her out, just like he led the mother and the aunt. But it was still weird that they showed her running from him, like she got away and then she was tied to a tree. And then on top of that, the whole JJ talking him down. Again, I didn't feel the intensity, but what's even funnier to me, she actually manages to convince him that his dad was a good person, and she talks him down so much so that he drops the gun. He's like, like he's given up, and then Luke comes out of nowhere and just tackles him to the ground. And I don't know, something about the fact that, like, the situation seemed handled to me, and then suddenly Luke out of nowhere just RKO out of nowhere. It was kind of hilarious. Like, what I was trying to think, because I had a good like similarity comparison in my mind earlier, and it's gone now. But it's just, I think about like an action scene, like a superhero fighting a villain, or I think a car chase is what was in my mind. Like, you got a police car chasing this other car, and then just like they're driving around, and it's just this epic chase, and they're weaving in and out of traffic, and cars are going everywhere, and then the car that's being chased just pulls into their driveway and stops. And it's like, okay, so the chase is over, but then the cop car just comes and rams them out of nowhere. That's what I had in my mind whenever he did that, because I'm just like, Luke, the conversation was over, bud. Like, you could have just walked up and grabbed the gun from him. I don't know. And I know, obviously, they talked about he had his fits of rage or whatever, so maybe it was more of a concern of just you don't want him to get back into that state again and then end up shooting everybody anyway, so just take the chance that you have real quickly. But it was still, the way it was handled was just funny to me. And not in a good way either. It was more just so bad I had to laugh. So yeah, as far as this episode is concerned though, does the good balance out the bad? You know, it's about average, I guess. Like, the bad is not the worst that I've seen in any show. So it was just bad, but I've seen worse on this show, to be honest. And then the Garcia stuff, it was good. It wasn't fantastic, but it was enjoyable and it was fun to watch, and not, well, fun in a weird sense. Like, it was emotional and you really felt the emotion in her scenes. So yeah, all in all, fairly average. So on to the next episode. See you there. And now episode 5, The Tall Man. What a good episode. Man, what a good episode. Come on. Come on. Now, admittedly, it is like pretty close to bedtime for me, so a scary episode was not necessarily something I needed for my dreams tonight, but it's fine. There were just a few horror elements mixed in that, yeah, it made me worried about what my dreams are going to entail tonight. But anyways, no, I mean, fantastic episode. I honestly loved almost everything about it. From JJ experiencing all of her trauma again. I mean, just how good the acting was in those scenes and how emotional it got. Will at the end with a fantastic husband move with the little necklace. I mean, don't get me wrong. After watching him in The Punisher Season 2, I know the man can play more than just caring husband. Like, I know he's got that side to him. He can be intimidating as hell when he wants to be, but damn, that that gift at the end, I mean, that got me emotional. I'm like, okay, Will, good job, bro. That's some quality gift given right there, especially after the case. I don't even think he realizes just how good that gift is, but yeah, that got me a little watery-eyed watching her react to it. But yeah, I mean, all the stuff with JJ that we got in this episode was really, really good. And I mean, I don't know if we ever had a hint as to what her childhood entailed, but man, that really, whew, I couldn't imagine. I mean, walking in on your sister like that is just, it's rough. So yeah, the storytelling in this one was really fantastic. Even the little touches, you know, having the one girl apparently, you know, has early onset schizophrenia, which apparently means she can't recognize faces. And so because she sees things a little differently, we're seeing certain things, like the tall man himself, in different eyes. And so when we go back and we're seeing, you know, it's just Bethany and Chelsea there, and seeing how his face isn't actually distorted, it's a mask that he's wearing, but she couldn't really tell. I don't know, something about that I thought was very clever, and it added to the horror elements in this episode, which again, I mean, for me, not great because I'm not a horror fan and I've got to sleep soon. But as far as making this episode a lot more memorable and a lot more terrifying, I thought that was a nice little touch, and it added a little element to it that they didn't have to do, but I feel like it did, again, elevate the thrill of it a bit more. So the only thing that I think didn't quite work for me, and honestly it's something I could say for Criminal Minds for the most part, is whenever they try to do a mystery, typically it doesn't work quite as well. You know, you look at the last episode, it was between the dad and the pastor, or not the dad, the husband and the pastor, and I kind of figured it was going to be neither of them, and that only left the son for me. And whenever the dad confessed, that's when I was like, okay, yeah, it's definitely the son then. And it's only because those were your 3 real possibilities, and they were keeping the killer's identity hidden, which made me think, okay, so this is probably a mystery, right? So in this episode, whenever, you know, the tall man, face covered, I wasn't sure if this was going to be something where just a person pretends to be the tall man, but I figured if that were actually the case, then this probably would have been brought to their attention a lot sooner. But the fact that this was the first real verified attack told me that there was probably something else going on. And the fact that they kept the tall man's face hidden under a mask for most of it, I'm thinking, okay, so it's probably somebody we've seen. So we find out about the necklace pretty early on. And the fact that Tom gave JJ's sister the necklace, in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, so that makes him the obvious suspect. But Scooby-Doo logic tells me that it's not going to be the most obvious suspect. It's probably going to be somebody else that we've met. And then they start talking about how whoever's been doing this has been doing this for a long time. And that's when it hit me. It's the guidance counselor. Like, he talked about how he has kids that are special to him, how he's been around since JJ was in school. I'm like, yeah, it's got to be the guidance counselor, right? So whenever they start sort of, I guess, showing Bethany at the school, and then they have JJ go back in her mind, all these little things, I don't know, I'm waiting for that moment. And sure enough, they go to the funeral, and she's looking for the one person that gave her a weird look, and they cut to him. Like, yep, there you go. That's kind of what I was figuring. So, yeah, I don't know. They all, not almost never. I just feel like they don't really know how to write a good mystery in a way that you really, at least not for mystery lovers, because most of the time mystery lovers, we have it in our minds that, okay, it's not going to be the most obvious suspect, and it's not going to be the least obvious suspect, but it's going to be somebody we know, and it's going to be somebody that the clues kind of point to them, but not really until you get a certain clue that changes the way you think about the case. That's kind of the typical mystery formula. And so whenever you have a setup where you don't really have that many suspects to choose through, and they're setting it up to be it's going to be somebody it kind of makes it easy in situations like this for me to go, okay, well, it's probably not Tom, and that only really leaves the guidance counselor, and then you gave me that one clue, I'm like, yeah, it's definitely him now, and now I'm sitting around waiting for the moment where they find out it's him. So that's my own personal opinion. Other people may have had a little bit more difficult time catching on to it, and they may have enjoyed the twist a lot more. I will say I did enjoy the twist where one of the girls was actually helping, because I had that in my mind at first, and they even talked about the possibility that this Allie girl might have been the one to do this, and the schizophrenia may have had something to do with it. And yeah, I'll admit, I did sort of wonder, did she actually set all this up, and the tall man is something in her mind, but it's really just this, basically her brain making her think, oh no, the tall man's doing this, but she's actually the one doing it all herself. So finding out that one of the girls is sort of helping, and they help set this up, I will say that was a good twist, and it did add something that I wasn't expecting. But yeah, I mean, all in all, still a very good episode, even if the one part didn't really grip me as much, the mystery element to it. But everything else was really, really good, and yeah, I mean, I'm not really a horror fan, but this episode probably... It's funny because I don't really know how to rank Criminal Minds episodes because there's so many, but this will probably be one that sticks around in my mind, because there are a few episodes here and there that are really, really good in a way that when I look back, I actually have some friends that are currently binge watching the show, and whenever I happen to be over there at their place, they were watching it, and I just remember a couple episodes popping up that I'm like, I remember that episode because it was memorable. There was something about it that made it memorable. I feel like this is going to be one that after everything is said and done, I'm probably going to remember this episode, because it's really high up there in my opinion as far as top Criminal Minds episodes. So that's it for this one. So on to the final of these 3 episodes. See you there. Now episode 6. Luke. Pain. Oh, God. Whew. I tell you what, that one hurt. That one hurt. Yeah. I I'll admit Luke Alves has not really been a character that I've been super connected to or been really interested in either. He just I don't know, for a while he felt like the replacement, you know, for Morgan. That's essentially what I saw him as. It's like, oh hey, it's the beefcake guys. Ooh, it's Alves. Ooh, ladies, you love him. That's kind of what it felt like for a long time, and they did give him some differences, obviously, to Morgan, but I don't know. I never really saw him as that interesting. Now, I don't really remember much about his friend. Like, I don't really remember the episode where we saw him. They showed a couple of the scenes. I'm like, oh yeah, I do remember the puppy being involved in cute little puppy. And yeah, I love dogs. Um, but I don't really remember much about him meeting the girl that he's with now. I don't really remember much about him and his friend, and losing his legs and all that, or the ability to walk. It's kind of vague because I don't even know if it was last season. It was probably 2 seasons ago that those stories happened. So, yeah, I don't know. I just didn't really, when I saw it, I'm like, okay, don't really remember everything, but you give me enough to remember at least the fact that he's got a girlfriend and he's got a friend that he's really close with that introduced the two of them. And then this episode begins, and I don't know, just the fact that it was titled Luke, and the fact that they kept showing, they showed Phil a lot and they showed Lisa a lot. I just had this sinking feeling in my stomach. I'm like, something bad's gonna happen this episode, isn't it? Something really bad's about to happen because I don't know why, but just the build up, it's got me feeling nervous that something bad's about to happen. So when you start to find out about this, what's it called? Sicario, I think is the name of the hitman. When you find out about Ramos, and all of a sudden you start to find out he's taking out people that are related to the takedown, and then you later find out it's actually this sniper. The one part of the episode that I'm just kind of like, really, is whenever they showed the sniper putting away his gun and spitting some tobacco out. That moment, I'm just like, okay, they focused on that way too much. That's gonna come back later. It's gonna end up being this guy imitating the hitman, isn't it? Exactly what it was. But when I heard that they were taking out people related to the takedown, that's when it really hit me. I'm like, yeah, somebody close to Luke is in danger. Like, I don't know if Lisa's gonna get taken out thinking they're going after Luke, or if Phil's in danger. I didn't want either of them to go. Like, again, I don't really have much of a connection to Luke or his story, but the way they set this up, I was terrified for both Lisa and for Phil. And I hardly even know them. And, oh, God, it was all there. Even him calling Luke and saying you're going to have to live with the knowledge that you got somebody that you love killed by not taking a shot. And it was all there. My first thought was, oh God, Lisa's in danger. Not even thinking about the fact that, Luke didn't think about until he got home. He's like, wait a minute, he doesn't know about you. He shouldn't know about you. It's not like he's been keeping tabs on me. But obviously Phil knew him. And in that moment, I'm like, oh God, no, it is Phil. And I mean, it really hit me. I mean, when I think about the fact that he had a dog, which is already very sad, because now, I mean, I'm sure the dog is going to go be with Penelope, which is fine. But the fact that he and Penelope were hitting it off pretty well, I mean, unbeknownst to them, because Luke wasn't playing the matchmaker that he should have been playing. But now in hindsight, maybe it was best that he didn't, because there was an obvious attraction there for both of them. But if Luke had let them know, they probably would have started dating, and then this would have just really messed up Garcia, because she's gone through a lot already this season. So yeah, hopefully they don't let Garcia know at this point, because that would just crush her. Like, a guy that was interested in her ends up getting killed before she even found out that he was interested in her. Would suck. But yeah, just all of the I don't know, just thinking about Phil. Just he fought so hard. I seem to vaguely remember there was a point where he thought about giving up and Luke and Garcia got him the puppy to kind of help cheer him up through his rehab to get his legs working. He just started, back at the FBI. It was a desk job, but he was back at work. He was able to walk with a cane. Again, he and the dog are really close, and he and Garcia might have started something soon. And it's just all of this possibility for all of these happy stories just cut short in this episode. And so when that happened, I mean, it hit me hard. I wasn't crying or anything, but I was gut punched through that scene whenever we see him getting tortured and getting shot. I mean, when Luke walks in, just the look on his face, I was sick to my stomach because it hurt. And honestly, I wasn't really expecting it either, is what really, I think, got me the most. Because all of these episodes so far, yeah, we had a couple where we dug into a little bit, with Garcia and with JJ in the last episode. We got a couple episodes where we dug into that. But this just was personal. Out of nowhere. And I probably should have suspected because the title of the episode was Luke. But man, it still caught me off guard. And then that final scene, that broke me. That actually broke me. And it wasn't just, like with JJ getting the necklace from Will. That was, oh yeah, oh that's so sweet, watery eyes. No, when Luke broke down, because I feel like most guys can probably relate to that. I mean, sure, there's kind of a push for guys to be more emotional and show their feelings a lot more. But I don't know, it's just, most guys don't really get into their feelings that much. And it's not so much that we hide the feelings. Like, sometimes we do, because, the whole tough guy mantra. But really, that's kind of gone out the window now. Like, it's not seen as untough for a man to cry, because there are plenty of reasons for a man to cry. But it's still just, I mean, we're not in our emotions as much. So to see a man cry like that, it's not something that we tend to do. So to see Luke just breaking down there at the end, talking about Phil and talking about he was the first guy that he cried in front of, and how he felt safe around Phil. Like, I feel like I'm not just saying guys are the only ones that have a friend like this, but I can relate to that. Having a friend that you can just open up with and be real in front of. Like, that's something that's cherished. That type of friendship is rare. And knowing that feeling and knowing what he's going through, having lost that. I mean, I haven't necessarily had a friend die, but I've lost a couple friends that I felt very close to. I just lost their friendship. Like, we don't talk that much anymore. And it sucks to think about. So to actually not just lose the possibility of a friendship, but, well, not just lose a friendship, but you can't be friends with them because they're gone. They're just, I mean, oh, God. I did not need this. I didn't need Criminal Minds to break me down tonight. I wanted to get through a few episodes because I'm out of reviews to upload for tomorrow. And so I'm just like, yeah, I need to get through these 3 episodes tonight so I have a review to post. And Criminal Minds is like, oh no, these are not just going to be 3 episodes for you to just breeze through. No, first we're going to tackle Garcia's issues. Then we're going to get into JJ's serious rooted trauma. And then we're going to kill Luke's best friend. And watch how he deals with it. Oh. Oh, damn. Yeah. So, it's late. I'm tired. And I'm emotional now. Thank you, Criminal Minds, for that. The final thing that I do want to talk about in this episode, though, something that just stood out to me, because I've seen this cliche done many times where you do have the one member of the team that goes rogue because it's personal for them. And so whenever Alves goes into Prentice's office and he's talking to her, of course in my mind I'm thinking he's not going to do any of this. And in Prentice's mind, she was like, he's not going to do any of this because she's smart enough to see through that. But I really like how it was handled because it really did feel very real. He's saying all of this stuff, and even though she doesn't believe him, she's not going to let on that she knows, because she knows it's a way to track him. If she's aware of what he's trying to do and she doesn't let him know that she's onto him, she can utilize Garcia, to track his other phones like she did. And it was very smart from Prentice, because I feel like some in other shows she would have been like, "You're not gonna go after him, right? Like, I don't believe you. You know, stay here." She would have done all this stuff to make sure that he didn't do anything. But I think she realized she wasn't gonna just stop him. Like, it would take a physical force to keep him from doing what he wanted to do in this scenario. So instead of stopping him outright and forcing him not to go, she let him, because she didn't want to. She didn't want to do anything rash, because technically she didn't have any proof that he was definitely going to. But she made sure to keep tabs on him so she could get there in time to keep him from killing the guy. And I thought that was very smart from her. And even the talk that she gave him at the end, I will say it was a little weird that they did it all out in the open like that. I don't know. I kind of figured that would be something for a bit more like private. Like, she asked him into her office and basically says, "Here's how it's gonna go because of everything you did." And honestly, because as well, it did feel a little bit more emotional, like emotionally charged, which makes sense because they just got there, guns at the ready. He was about to kill him, basically. So her reaction was a bit more emotionally charged than I would have expected a talk like that to go. So I would have liked that scene a little bit better if they had done it in the office, maybe the next day. But I like everything she said. I mean, the dialogue on it was spot on. Just, this is how it's gonna go. This is everything that's gonna happen. You know, none of it's set in, or some of it is not set in stone. You can earn it back, but this is what's gonna happen, and you're lucky you didn't kill him. And I'm like, yeah. I mean, all of that makes sense. It's very procedural. It's by the book, because what he did was wrong. And I think ultimately you could tell by the look on his face, like, he knew, but he kind of didn't care, because that's how much Phil meant to him. He was willing to risk all of this to make sure this guy got taken down, because he didn't want, the possibility of Lisa in the future being a target. And I will say, there is a part of my mind that's like, but to be fair, there's a small chance that he could try to break out of prison and still come after Luke in all of this. That is a possibility, and I mean, hopefully the possibility of the death penalty gets brought up for him, because he, based on everything he did, he does deserve it. He even killed a federal agent, which should get him the death penalty. And that way I don't even, like, because that would be something I would be freaking out about as Luke. Like, he's good enough to break out of prison. What if he does that and comes after us? So I don't know if they're going to confirm what happens with him, whether he just goes to prison for life or whether they do give him the death penalty. But yeah, the fact that I'm even thinking about that just shows what a good episode this was. I mean, I didn't even really talk about the stuff with Grant himself, and the fact that the plot twist of, oh, it's actually not Ramos, it's Grant that's mimicking him. And yes, the plot twist that he was going to be responsible was obvious to me because of how they set up the whole tobacco thing. Like, there's no way they would just show him doing that and it not be purposeful. But the fact that he actually had killed the guy weeks before, and he's been doing it ever since to essentially mimic him, that was pretty cool. It was well set up in a way that made him even more intimidating to know. Not only did he take down this very dangerous man, but he's also able to perfectly mimic the way that this dangerous man killed people, just to throw off people into thinking that the guy was still alive. So yeah, what an episode to end it on. But I'm now very tired from all the emotional pain I just went through, so let me go to bed. But that's it for these 3 episodes, so let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. What were your thoughts on these 3? Let me know. We could talk about and discuss all that good stuff. Leave a like and subscribe for future Criminal Minds reviews, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.